Greetings dear friends, Dragon here once again, back with another movie review, and today taking a look at Radiance Films' fairly recently released Bounty Hunter Trilogy, 3 spectacular films all starring the incomparable Tomisaburo Wakayama, probably best known to Western audiences for being in the Lone Wolf and Cub series of films, or Shogun Assassin for those of you who grew up with them in the US, where it was much more readily available. Shogun Assassin is just the first 2 Lone Wolf movies kind of mashed together. But Tomisaburo Wakayama was in not just those movies, actually in hundreds of movies throughout his career, and had several kind of little franchises on the go, none that ran quite as far as the Lone Wolf and Cub series, which I think made it up to 6, and a TV series, which he wasn't in. He also had the Wicked Priest series, which ran to 5, but the Bounty Hunter Trilogy, 3 pretty solid movies, and a spin-off TV series. The movies, by and large, jump around a little bit. They're not really that consistent in terms of tone, but we're going to get into each film in course, take a little look at what's on the disc, and really tell you why this is absolutely my favourite release that Radiance have put out so far. Largely heavily biased, because Tomisaburo Wakayama, easily one of my favourite Japanese actors, but I suspect this set's just about to be supplanted by the Shinobi no Mono box set when it comes out, because I absolutely adore those movies. And again, we get to see Tomisaburo Wakayama back, though this time playing a villain in the Shinobi no Mono series, unlike the hero that he is here. So first up, we take a look at The Killer's Mission, which is the first film in the set, directed by Shigehiro Ozawa, who probably again best known in the West for directing the Street Fighter and Sister Street Fighter movies with Sonny Chiba, which are themselves incredible movies, but I think there's maybe a little bit more worth to be had in the 2 films that he did in the Bounty Hunter Trilogy. There may be arguably slightly more going on in those films. To put the film into context of when it came out, so Killer's Mission came out in 1969. 2 years previously had seen James Bond visit Japan. You Only Live Twice came out in Japan in 1967, and has lent quite a big influence into the Bounty Hunter Trilogy, certainly into the first movie, which even in its marketing campaign lent into the 007 elements, and they included a whole bunch of gadgets. Our title character, so Tomisaburo Wakayama, is playing Ichibe Shikoro, Ichibe for short, as I'm going to call him throughout this review. So Ichibe, kind of bounty hunter slash doctor slash spy slash loverman. He's kind of pretty much hard to pin down exactly what he does, but very much in the first film is drafted in to try and halt the sale of some guns that are being bought from the Dutch, attempting to try and thwart this sale, and ultimately kind of see if he can destroy the guns and stop them falling into the hands of the Satsuma clan, and see if they can be returned to the shogunate, though I think he has his own feelings on the matter, but I don't want to give too many spoilers. But essentially he sets off on this quest. Along the way is allied by a female ninja, who in the first film is played by Yomiko Nagawa. She's playing Kagero, who's essentially the sort of female spy slash ninja that he encounters, and who sort of are both heading in the same direction, though they're kind of working for different masters. And another kind of female character that plays a fairly large part in the first film, played by Tomoko Mayama. She's playing Akane, though confusingly she would return in the second film and play the part that Yomiko Nagawa plays in the first film. So she would play Kagero, and then we also saw another actress playing Kagero in the TV series. I think the TV series was called Shoken Gasegi. Anyway, our heroes set off to try and thwart the sale of guns, and along the way, huge amount of incredible swordplay, quite a bit more gunplay than we would kind of previously seen in Japanese movies, though certainly not as much gunplay as we will see in The Fort of Death, the second film. But yeah, great mix of kind of action, quite a bit of comedy. Critics of the film sometimes rail against the fact that he's pretty horrendous to the female characters in the film, usually kind of pushing himself on them, not quite to the same extent that his younger brother would do in the Hanzo the Razor series of films, but still not the easiest scenes to watch for some people, and I imagine that they were a bit of a stumbling block for certainly some of the people who've contributed to the special features. I think there's a great kind of interview with a Japanese film scholar, and he speaks about maybe that being one of the reasons why the films haven't kind of been held in higher regard, and it's certainly something that we don't see continuing in the second and the third film to the same degree at all. There's quite a bit of comedy, but it's a pretty great mix of action, comedy, and kind of intrigue as we kind of see our heroes go about their task of trying to kind of get to the get to thwart the sale of the guns, which I'm not going to spoil for you to say how well they do, though the trailer does kind of spoil that, so I shall clip around that because I'm using some shots from the trailer as I'm speaking here. But yeah, all around just an incredible first entry into the franchise. Maybe, I think, my favourite of the three in some ways, because I really love the kind of James Bond connection, love the gadgets, a fantastic score that's channeling John Barry. The score for the first film done by Yagi Maseo, and he's certainly kind of putting in a whole bunch of very Bond-esque beats into it. The second film takes a bit of a departure and has a different director. So the second film, The Fort of Death, directed by Ichi Kudo. Ichi Kudo, I think, probably best known for directing the original 13 Assassins that Takeshi Miike would then go on to remake, and Castle of Owls. So he directed a couple of ninja movies, and he kind of leaves most of the spy stuff on one side, a lot of the comedy as well, so it's a much more serious entry, The Fort of Death. Also much more sort of spaghetti western inspired. I think Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch had come out the same year, and I don't know how much of an influence that played, because there's certainly a Gatling gun at play in this too, as there is in the finale of The Wild Bunch, and a much more gun-centric movie. So this time round, slightly Seven Samurai shades to this film, where he's our hero Ichibe is recruited by a bunch of villagers who are at their wits' end because they're being kind of forced under duress to contribute in the rebuilding of the castle of Edo, which they don't want to do, so they're being heavily taxed. They're kind of being killed if they try and kind of escape, and ultimately end up kind of boxing themselves into their village and turning it into a kind of a little bit of a fort, as the name of the film suggests, and they're kind of really attempting to try and hold off the government agents who come in to really try and Shanghai them into kind of working on this construction project. So in their last act of desperation, they reach out to our hero, to Ichibe, who comes to their aid, enlists a kind of few other warriors, not quite up to 7, I think there's 5 of them altogether, and is joined by a female ninja, Kagero, as I mentioned earlier, this time played by Tomoko Mayama, who we saw in the first film, and brings with him a Gatling gun, so they essentially are able to kind of hold off the hordes of samurai that the government is sending, usually mowing them down en masse. A much more kind of darkly violent film, though less kind of sword based, much more gun based. It feels very much like a western, a kind of standoff, very much like an OK at the Fort Corral kind of vibe to this one round. No less fun, but a little bit kind of more intense of a movie, and certainly a lot of the comedy beats have gone. We don't see him kind of forcing himself on women, though that has been inverted, and there's one particular woman who's constantly trying to kind of force herself on him, but he has no interest in that. He's just very much of the people, for the people, and trying to protect the people this time around. And we do play more into the fact that he's a doctor in The Fort of Death, so you kind of see at the beginning of the film, you see him running his doctor's practice and helping some patients there. So I think they've kind of tried to make him much more of a kind of more heroic character than he was in the first film, to quite a degree of success. He's pretty charismatic as an actor, so it comes off pretty well. And Fort of Death, really enjoyable second entry. I think maybe don't enjoy it quite as much as the first, but it is a very different movie, and it's nice kind of just not completely repeating the same beats. One of the other elements that The Fort of Death brings in that I was very much a fan of is ninjas. It leaves the spies at one side and brings in a whole bunch of ninja action, because ninjas are hired at one point to kind of go and try and steal the Gatling gun, which they kind of sort of succeed in doing, but not for too long. And the main ninja, played pretty charismatically by Goro Abiki. He's playing Otuhe with a massive scar down his face, because I think he was playing a similar character in TV or movies at the same sort of time that also had that big scar down his face. So I think they wanted to kind of lean into the success of that, and so kind of really kept that aesthetic in place. But it works pretty well here. He looks pretty badass, and it's kind of good fun seeing him go up against Ichibe. In fact, they try and steal a gun in the dead of the night, so Ichibe has to kind of run out and fight them wearing only his underwear, which is pretty cool. He's running around through a bamboo forest, dispatching ninjas with anything that he can get his hands on. But yeah, pretty great scene. But ultimately our heroes are able to get the gun back and ultimately save the day. Taking us to the third film, to 8 Men to Kill, and our original director, Shigehiro Ozawa, returns. Brings back a little bit of the comedy that we saw in the first film, though not quite to the same extent. Much more violent film. a little bit more brooding, and this time round our hero is dispatched to try and retrieve some stolen gold. Gold which seems to be passing through a bunch of different people's hands, so a much more kind of large cast, a little bit confusing to keep track of if you're not paying attention, but ultimately once he gets on the trail of it, he is able to kind of try and get to the bottom of what's going on. Pretty bleak ending and a very anti-government ending, with Ichibe basically saying that he will make sure that the gold goes to a good cause, because we kind of get the sense that he's paying for his doctor's practice out of his own pocket. So there's a bit of a suggestion that he's probably going to use some of the gold to kind of keep on being able to help the people. But yeah, all around a great way to kind of wrap out the trilogy, and we would see a lot of the tropes that are at place in the second and third movie would continue into the TV series. So he's a doctor, but now also becomes a teacher in the TV series, and much more lighthearted. They're really great. If you can kind of find any of the episodes, they're well worth watching. I think there was 22 of them altogether. I think I've only managed to see the first 12, but yeah, pretty good big budgets, a multitude of different directors, and really kind of good fun to kind of see Tomisaburo Wakayama in another TV series, because he did a couple. Mute Samurai was another one that was exceptionally good, that worked really well, and kind of also around for the same sort of time he'd kind of made that transition. The TV show came a few years later, so I think 8 Men to Kill was in 1972, and then Shokin Kasegi, the TV series, in 1975, and that kind of wrapped out the last time that he would play that character, though the TV show ran for a little bit of time. But yeah, as far as the actual Blu-ray release from Radiance goes, really great set. There's some great special features on here. We get a commentary on the first film, on Killer's Mission, by Tom Mes. Tom Mes, an absolute encyclopedic knowledge of Japanese cinema, and he brings it to bear here, so he does a wonderful job speaking through Killer's Mission, but does also mention the second and third film in the course of his commentary. Highlights the Bond similarities, and indeed the fact that the Killer's Mission had shot using exactly the same volcano that we see housing Blofeld's base in You Only Live Twice. That I think is Mount Shinmo Daki. And we also see Himeji Castle as well in the first film, which again was also a location in You Only Live Twice. All that stuff Tom Mes was very quick to remind me of. But yeah, really great. We get a pretty great booklet included, which has a couple of really interesting translated articles, one by the incredible director Kinji Fukasaku, and he speaks about his time knowing and working alongside Ichi Kudo, and speaks about the first time he met him, and how he kind of found working, and really how much respect he had for him as an artist. And then we also get an interview with the other director, with Shigehiro Ozawa, speaking about really how the demise of the film studio that he was working for, when the decline of Ninko movies changed his life, because he went on in his later years to become a fortune teller, I believe. But yeah, really great and quite interesting read. And we also get a pretty good article at the beginning by Alan Silver called So Many People Are Dead, which is a good overview of the three movies in the landscape of Japanese cinema at the time that they were made. Other on-disc extras wise, we get an interview with film historian and Shigehiro Ozawa expert Akihito Ito, where he speaks about Shigehiro Ozawa. Really good, runs for about 16 minutes long. On the other disc we get a visual essay, which is by Robin Gatto on the work of director Icho Kudo. Also runs for about 18 minutes, and really entertaining, and some kind of great facts about the making of that film and how it contrasted with the first, along with a series of pretty great art cards, some which are different posters for the films from around the world. But yeah, it's really nice to kind of see. And like I say, I think probably my favourite Radiance box set from the ones that have come out so far. I have this and I have the World Cinema set, and I'm looking forward to getting the Shinobi no Mono set and World Noir Volume 2 when that kind of appears later in the year. If you're keen for more Tomisaburo Wakayama on Radiance already, he's also in the spectacular Big Time Gambling Boss, which was one of the kind of first releases that Radiance put out. An absolutely incredible movie, one that I hadn't actually seen before this release came round, but I highly recommend it. And lastly, I would say that Eastern Heroes magazine, who I pretty routinely write for, did a Lone Wolf and Cub, a Shogun Assassin special fairly recently as part of their Film Frenzy spin-off, which looks less at Hong Kong cinema and more at kind of other Asian cinema and other world cinema. A really great issue, and I'm going to do a breakdown review of that issue. So look out for that video. That'll be going up around the same time as this one does. So that, I think, is pretty much it. I highly recommend tracking down the set if you haven't already. I think it's selling out incredibly fast. It looks to me like the American releases have already sold out from their distributor's website, so you can only really find them in retailers, so be quick to pick it up, though I believe it is getting a re-release as a standard edition, so probably without the extra trimmings later in the year, but the on-disc extras should be the same. But yeah, 3 absolutely fantastic films starring an absolutely incredible powerhouse of a Japanese actor, the incomparable Tomisaburo Wakayama. I've been the Fanatical Dragon. Thank you so much for watching this. If you made it to the very end of this video, I salute you. It's been quite a long one today. Do please click the subscribe button if you're not already. I do also have a Patreon for anybody who's looking for an extra way to support the channel. I shall leave you for just now, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.